Well, good morning, everybody. This is Mr. Mike for the Mechanicsburg Learning Center with our special Dino-A-Day feature. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today since it's a little drizzly and dreary outside, and what a perfect day to grab your pole and go fishing. So let's get into it. How's everybody doing? Well, when I wrote some stories a few years ago about ancient animals, I never dreamed that I would do my own discovering of some just fascinating animals that I'd never heard of. The reason I never heard of them is there wasn't a lot of models made of these animals. When you go to the toy store and you're looking at your dinosaur models, you see T-Rex and Stegosaurus. Nowadays, you might see Megalodon and things like that, but very seldom did you come across an animal called Dunkleosteus or Dunkleosteus. I've heard it pronounced 3 or 4 different ways. This is what this bad boy looked like. For simplicity purposes, I'm going to refer to him as Dunkleosteus. Dunkleosteus was an ancient swimming fish from the Devonian period, which was 380 to about 360 million years ago. This existed before the dinosaurs, long before the dinosaurs, about 100 million years before the dinosaurs. Its proper name is Dunkleosteus terrelli, and I'll tell you more about terrelli in a moment. So the name Dunkleosteus, osteus, yesterday we were talking about osteoderms, which refer to the skin. I'm sorry, osteo refers, bone. Derm refers to the skin. So Dunkleosteus means Dunkle's bone. And Dunkle was David Dunkle from the Cleveland Museum of Natural History, who actually rediscovered Dunkleosteus. And this happens very often when you're dealing with ancient animals. Somebody finds something, they're not sure what it is, then years later, another bone is discovered, and they say, oh, here's what it is. And then they realize that this bone matches up to the one that was discovered 100 years prior. But so this David Dunkle actually discovered it, and then he's the one that did a description on it and became popular. But when he named it Dunkleosteus, he made sure to give proper credit to the first person that found it, which was the terrelli part of the name. And that name refers to J. Terrell and his son, who actually discovered Dunkleosteus back in 1867. So 1956 comes around, and they name the thing Dunkleosteus after David Dunkle. Now, it's not a shark. Let's look at another version of this. The physiology of the back of this animal, from basically here back, is just a really good educated guess, because none of this ends up getting preserved. It's very rare when the animal known as a placoderm or a shark or any kind of animal is made of cartilaginous material, which is your ear stuff in your nose. It's called cartilage. That all decays away or gets eaten by other animals after the animal dies. So all we have left are this big, heavily armored head and some plates back here. We surmise that it may have had some more back here, but basically, as I said, the rest of this is kind of just educational guess. Let's turn this around so you can get a look at Dunkleosteus's most impressive feature. These are not teeth that we're looking at right now. These are actually hunks of bone or plates. Dunkleosteus had extremely strong bite and very tough, heavy teeth. Even in this other model, you'll see the similar design of its teeth, okay? Yeah. We also think that sometimes these things went at each other because we found injuries to what little material we do have where we see some very well-placed bite marks Was it actually trying to eat the other Dunkleosteus, or was it just playing? Was it just trying to have some fun? Lord knows. But these things did certainly have a strong bite. They think that the bite was about produced a bite force of 8,000 pounds per square inch, which makes it basically a swimming Tyrannosaurus. It had an extremely strong bite. So what the animal would do, it would swim up to the animal, open its mouth, take a huge bite out of it, or just swallow the whole thing whole. Now, the other thing that we know about its bite, it didn't really swim through the water very quickly. It really didn't need to. It would approach fish, come up to it, and then in 1/50th of a second, let me repeat that, in 1/50th of a second, it would slam its jaw shut and either cut the animal in half or just swallow it whole. The other thing it could do is it could open its mouth quickly. And when you can open your mouth quickly, it does something else in the water. Now, do you remember the cartoons you used to watch as a kid where a fish is swimming along and then another bigger fish comes up behind it and goes, overtakes it and swallows it. Then another fish swallows that, and then the bigger fish swallows that. Well, this is not exactly the way it happens in the water. What would happen is, let's say that my hand is Dunkleosteus and there's a fish swimming along, minding its own business. Dunkleosteus, because it could open its mouth so quickly, it would go like this. And when it opened that mouth in 1/50th of a second, what would that create in the water? Well, it would create a little bit of a vacuum. So let's do this in slow motion for you. Ready? Here's how Dunkleosteus would get dinner. Remember, slow motion. Now we'll do it in regular motion. Swimming along, here comes Dunkleosteus. It would open its mouth so quickly, it created a vacuum. And that vacuum that was created would actually draw the fish right into its mouth. Wow. Okay, so Dunkleosteus. Scary animal. If it had to take on a shark, back then in the Devonian, there weren't big sharks like there were throughout history, like Megalodon or today's great white, which grows to about 20 feet. This guy grew to somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 33 feet. Okay? So we can't tell you exactly what would happen if it had to go up against a fish like great white, but scientists are pretty clear. We think this would be the victor in a battle between a great white and a placodermed Dunkleosteus. So, I was so impressed with the fish that when I recorded a CD a few years ago, actually turned my poem into a song about Dunkleosteus, and we'll see if we can't put a copy of that singing about Dunkleosteus. We'll put a copy of the poem or a link to it here on the Facebook page, and you can also probably find it on YouTube. So, from Volume 2 of Dinorific Poetry, here is the story of Dunkleosteus. A great fish once swam the Devonian Sea. This thing was so big, it would dwarf you and me. Imagine, this thing was the length of a bus. And listen to what else would cause such a fuss. It's called Dunkleosteus, and we now know it had bony plates where the fish teeth should grow. In fact, it had virtually no teeth at all. Instead, it had ultra-sharp bones in its jaw. It swam up behind and then quick opened wide, and that vacuum then drew smaller fishes inside. And once they were there, Dunk would slam his jaw shut, and in half those unlucky fishes were cut. Now, if he had to fend off a shark like great white, really there's no way to know, but we think that he might tell Sharky to scram, stay out of his way, and great white might just do that so he's not the prey. Now, some paleontologists give a suggestion that Dunk likely suffered from indigestion. He didn't have teeth, so he had no way to chew. He'd gulp down his dinner, and sometimes he'd spew. We found several sick balls which, once they're discovered, reveal certain facts that before had been covered. I know that that's gross. What these creatures swallowed as they swam about. So next time you hop on that big yellow bus, you might give a thought to Dunkleosteus. Those long ago seas were just full of attacks from monster-sized fishes that would make you their snacks. Dunkleosteus from Dinorific Poetry Volume 2, written by Mr. Mike, illustrated by my son Ethan. So we mentioned a couple of facts in that poem I want to make sure we highlighted. So, Dunkleosteus did not have teeth, bony plates. And when you have bony plates that are constantly rubbing against each other, just because you're out there trying to grab another fish for dinner, the plate itself, as the animal got older and larger, would continue to sharpen itself with every chomp. So, it had no need for teeth. The bony plate served as its teeth, which would allow it to bite pretty much anything in half. And as we mentioned, it could have been carnivorous, it could have been cannibalistic, which meant that it may have gone after its own kind. So, until tomorrow, great day to go fishing, just avoid Dunkleosteus. This is Mr. Mike from the Mechanicsburg Learning Center telling you, here's today's Dino-A-Day, and we'll make sure we put a video up there so you can see the song about Dunkleosteus. 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also catch all the videos on YouTube. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for subscribing. Have a great day. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.